My billionaire husband never loved me until one kiss changed his heart forever. Before we start today's story, comment below where you're watching from and hit subscribe if you haven't already. You won't want to miss what's next. Juniper Rhodes didn't count time by calendars anymore. She counted it by sad days and lonely nights. It had been 14 months, 3 weeks, and 5 days since she married Caspian Vale. She stood by the big window in their tall Manhattan home, looking down at people walking in the park. They were laughing, holding hands, and smiling. Juniper wished her life felt like that, but it didn't. At 42, she thought she knew what loneliness was. Her first husband, Lysander, had left her after a painful divorce. It was hard, but at least it was real. Now, she lived with someone who treated her like a piece of furniture. Juniper, the Pendleton contract must be ready by noon, Caspian said. His voice was cold and serious, like he was talking to a worker, not his wife. Juniper didn't turn around. She already knew what he looked like. Her husband of 14 months was dressed in a perfect black suit, checking his phone again. He never smiled, never asked how she was feeling. Of course, Juniper said softly. Their life was full of rules. No hugs, no love, no real talks, just business. When she married him, she had signed a contract. She agreed that their marriage would only be for business reasons. No love or closeness. She had done it to help her sick mother and to save her family home. Caspian's money had made all of that possible. But now she knew what it felt like to live without love, and it was worse than being poor. I'll be in Boston until Wednesday, Caspian said, not even looking up. The charity gala is on Thursday. Everett will tell you what to do. Not, will you come with me? Not, let's plan together. Just orders. Juniper turned to face him. He was very handsome, tall with blue eyes and silver in his dark hair, but his face was cold, like a statue that couldn't smile or feel. Will you stay at the same hotel? She asked, though she already knew. Yes, he said. He finally looked at her for one small moment. Juniper felt a tiny hope in her heart. Maybe this time he would talk to her like a real husband. But his eyes soon went back to his phone. I should go, he said. Traffic will be heavy. Juniper wanted to shout, Look at me! See me! Ask me about my day! But all she said was, Have a safe flight. He nodded and left. The quiet that followed felt heavy, like a blanket she couldn't breathe under. She sat on the big fancy sofa that cost more than most people's cars. She pulled her soft robe tighter and whispered to herself, 14 months of this. 14 months of being alone, even with someone living beside her. 14 months of dinners by herself. 14 months of pretending to be happy when inside she felt empty. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from her best friend, Zora. Coffee today? You sound like you need it. Juniper stared at the screen. She wished Zora knew the truth, that her perfect marriage was a cage. Everyone thought she was lucky. But the man who saved her family's money had slowly broken her heart. She remembered her old life, her small apartment in Brooklyn, her worries about paying bills. It had been hard, but it had been hers. She had been free. Now, she had everything rich people dream of. Fancy things, a big house, expensive clothes, but no happiness. She texted back, Yes, I need to get out of here. As she walked to her room to get dressed, she saw herself in the mirror. A woman with shiny hair, a pretty dress, and sad, empty eyes looked back. I want more, she thought. I want to be seen. I want to be loved. I want to feel alive. For the first time in 14 months, she let herself believe it was okay to want more. The charity gala at the Plaza Hotel was supposed to be their special night. Caspian needed her to be there, to smile beside him. Juniper spent all day getting ready. She wore a beautiful blue dress, had her hair done, and did her makeup perfectly. When Caspian came out of his study wearing a tuxedo, Juniper's heart skipped a beat. Even now, after all his coldness, he still made her heart race. You look beautiful, he said in a flat voice. Thank you, she whispered, hoping he'd say more. But he didn't. He looked at his watch instead. In the car, Juniper tried to talk. I read about the children's reading program we're helping tonight. It sounds wonderful. Everett handles those things, he said, eyes on his phone. I'm sure it's fine. Fine. Adequate. That was all he ever said. Nothing touched his heart. Juniper smiled weakly. Maybe we could visit one of the schools. I'd love to read to the children. Caspian looked at her for a second, and surprised she even had an idea. Then he said, That won't be necessary. We give them money. That's enough. Her smile faded. Inside, something broke again. At the gala, they looked perfect together. Everyone smiled at them. Mrs. Vale, you look so happy, a lady said. Yes, Juniper lied. It's wonderful. Caspian is very attentive. She wanted to laugh at her own words. He wasn't attentive. He didn't notice anything about her. She watched other couples around the room. One husband whispered something sweet to his wife that made her giggle. Another man helped his wife when she almost tripped. They cared. They loved. Juniper wanted that. When the auction started, they announced a trip to Tuscany. Juniper's heart lifted. That sounds lovely, she said softly. When was the last time we took a vacation together? Caspian didn't even look up. I don't have time for vacations, he said. You can bid on it yourself if you want. Her heart sank. He didn't even want to go anywhere with her. The rest of the night felt endless. They talked to people, smiled for cameras, pretended to be happy. But Juniper knew it was all fake. She was just an actress in his show. When they got home, the elevator ride was silent, 14 floors of nothing to say. Thank you for tonight, Caspian said politely when they reached their door, as if she were an employee. Of course, she whispered. Then he went into his study, closing the door behind him like always. Juniper stood in the quiet, looking around their big empty home. Her eyes filled with tears. She had tried so hard to be the perfect wife, to follow the rules, to smile through the loneliness, but deep inside, she knew something had broken. She couldn't keep pretending forever. For 14 long months, Juniper tried her best to be the perfect wife. She wanted to make her husband, Caspian, happy. She learned what time he liked to wake up, what food he liked to eat, and how he liked things to be done. She was always there for him, at work dinners, parties, and meetings, trying to be a good wife and partner. But no matter how hard she tried, it never worked. Caspian didn't want a real wife. He only wanted someone to stand beside him, smile when needed, and make him look good. When Juniper walked to her own bedroom, yes, her own, because Caspian and she didn't even share the same room, she saw herself in the mirror. The woman staring back looked pretty, with her fancy dress and neat hair, but her eyes looked empty and tired. She looked like someone who had lost her sparkle. At 42 years old, Juniper had a big house, fancy clothes, and everything money could buy, but inside she felt sad and lonely. I can't do this anymore, she whispered to herself. I can't live my life like this, being invisible to the person who should see me most. For the first time in many months, she felt something true. She wanted to be happy again. She wanted to be loved, noticed, and cared for. She wanted to feel alive. The next morning, Juniper woke up with a terrible headache. It felt like her sadness was trying to escape from her body. She had spent all night staring at the ceiling, thinking about every cold word Caspian had ever said. When she walked into the kitchen at 6 a.m, Caspian was already there. He wore a suit and was typing on his laptop. A cup of coffee sat beside him, going cold. He didn't even look up when she entered. Good morning, Juniper said softly. Caspian looked up for just a second, nodded like she was a chair or a wall, and went back to typing. He didn't smile. He didn't even say her name. Juniper's heart hurt. She was tired of begging for his attention. I thought maybe we could have breakfast together, she said, trying to sound cheerful. I don't eat breakfast, he replied, still typing. Too much sugar is bad for the brain. Juniper forced a small smile. Right, she said, though she felt like crying. She poured herself a cup of coffee, but her hands shook. Maybe we could go for a walk this weekend, she tried again. Or visit the new art museum? I'll be working this weekend, he said quickly. The Henderson deal needs my attention. Every weekend? She asked before she could stop herself. Caspian finally looked at her, annoyed. Yes, Juniper, some of us have real responsibilities, not just shopping and parties. His words felt like a slap. He made it sound like she did nothing important, even though she had given up her own job and dreams for him. I wasn't saying you should skip work, she said quietly. I was just hoping your wife could be one of your priorities. Caspian shut his laptop, picked up his things, and headed for the door. Caspian, she said, her voice breaking. Do you even see me? Am I real to you? Or am I just another number in your busy schedule? He stopped for a second. She hoped, just hoped, he would turn around and say something kind. But he only said, I'll be late tonight. Don't wait up. Then he left. Juniper stood there, alone in their big, empty house. She tried to make the day pass, called her mom, went to the gym, met her friend Zora for lunch, but everything felt meaningless. You look terrible, Zora said honestly as they sat eating salad. Don't tell me you're fine. I've known you since college. I'm just tired, Juniper said. And it was true, but it was more than that. She was tired deep in her heart. When was the last time you and Caspian did something together? Zora asked. Juniper tried to remember. She couldn't. Maybe they never really had. We're both busy, she said weakly. Busy? Zora shook her head. Couples make time for each other if they want to. Juniper, you're disappearing. You used to light up every room you entered. Now you look like a ghost. Juniper felt tears sting her eyes. I've tried, Zora. I really have. I've done everything I can, but he doesn't see me. Then maybe it's time to stop trying so hard, Zora said softly. You deserve someone who makes you feel special. That night, Juniper sat in her perfect living room, watching the sunset. Everything around her was beautiful. Expensive furniture, golden lights, big windows, but she felt completely alone. At 9 o'clock, Caspian came home. She didn't even know where else to go, so she just sat there. He walked past her without saying a word, going straight into his study. How was your day? She asked one last time. Fine, he said, not stopping, not even turning around. And that's when something inside Juniper broke. She realized she couldn't keep living like this. She had all the money, clothes, and comfort anyone could want, but she didn't have love. She didn't even have herself anymore. Somewhere along the way, she had lost the happy woman she used to be. I want more, she thought. I want to be seen, touched, and loved. I want to feel alive again. For the first time, Juniper started to think about how to take her life back, even if it meant losing everything else. 3 days passed since Juniper had that realization. She now saw her life clearly, maybe for the first time in years. She sat in her living room, surrounded by shiny furniture and soft carpets, but it all felt fake. It looked like a magazine picture, not a home. From Caspian's study, she could hear his voice on the phone. He sounded lively and excited, talking about business. Juniper felt a sharp pain in her heart. That's what passion sounds like, she thought sadly. He was never that happy talking to her. He only cared about deals and money, not love. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mom. Haven't heard from you in a few days, sweetheart. Everything okay? Juniper stared at it. How could she explain that she had everything money could buy but still felt so empty? She wrote back, Everything's fine, Mom. Just busy. It was another lie. Her life had become a long list of lies to keep others from worrying. Her mom was proud of her perfect marriage. She would be heartbroken to know the truth. The conference call ended, and Caspian walked out of his study, putting on his coat. I'll be at the Harper Industries meeting till 8, he said, then dinner with the Pendleton group. Of course you will, Juniper said quietly. He looked up, surprised. Excuse me? Nothing, she said quickly. But something brave inside her spoke again. Just wondering when you'll actually spend an evening with your wife. I'm building an empire, Juniper, he said in a cold voice. That takes dedication and sacrifice. From both of us, apparently, she whispered. His eyes narrowed. What's that supposed to mean? Juniper wanted to tell him everything, that she was lonely, sad, and tired of pretending, that she would trade all the luxury for just one real smile from him. But instead, she said, nothing. Have a good day. He gave her a disappointed look and left again. That afternoon, Juniper walked through her old neighborhood in Brooklyn. She passed by the coffee shop where she used to write stories and the little bookstore where she once dreamed of seeing her own book on the shelves. Everything looked the same, but she didn't feel the same. She wasn't the bright, happy woman she used to be. Then she heard someone call, Juniper? Oh my God, is that really you? She turned around and saw Kalen Reed, her old friend from the writing group. He was smiling at her with happy surprise. He looked almost the same as before, messy hair, jeans with little paint marks, and that friendly look she had missed. Juniper smiled softly. Kalen, wow, it's been so long. How are you? Kalen laughed. Better question is, how are you? He looked at her fancy clothes, her shiny shoes, and her perfect hair. Look at you, so fancy now. Married life treating you well? His question sounded kind, but it felt like a sharp pain in Juniper's heart. Married life. If only he knew how lonely she felt. It's different, Juniper said carefully. Different good or different complicated? Kalen asked, his eyes watching her face kindly, like he really cared. Just different, she said, but her voice shook a little. Soon they went to their old coffee shop, the one with mismatched chairs and a wobbly table. For the first time in a long while, Juniper felt like herself again. Kalen talked about his art, his small wins, and his big problems. Juniper listened and suddenly realized she had forgotten what it felt like to have a real, honest talk. So, Kalen asked finally, are you still writing? The question hit Juniper like a slap. Writing? When had she last written anything except thank you cards or fancy party invitations? No, she said softly. I don't really have time anymore. That's sad, Kalen said. You were really good. That story you wrote about the woman who forgot how to dream, I still remember it. It gave me chills. Juniper's eyes filled with tears. She had forgotten that story, forgotten the dreams she once had, forgotten the woman she used to be. Maybe I'll start again, she whispered. But even as she said it, she knew it wasn't true. How could she write about dreams when she didn't believe in them anymore? When she went back to her tall, fancy home that evening, Caspian, her husband, was already gone. Again. Another meeting, another night away. She stood in the big, beautiful living room. Everything sparkled, but it all felt empty. At 42, Juniper had everything people thought was perfect. Money, a big house, pretty clothes, and social status. But inside, she felt like a ghost. Beautiful on the outside, but lost inside. I can't do this anymore, she thought. I can't keep disappearing every day. She thought about Kalen and how kind his eyes were. She thought about her old life. Messy, noisy, but real. She thought about the woman she used to be. Brave, creative, and full of dreams. And for the first time in years, Juniper started to plan how to find that woman again, even if it meant losing everything else. The breaking point came one Tuesday morning. Juniper woke up alone, again. The bed, the room, the whole penthouse felt silent, like a tomb. Caspian had left early for another business trip, Chicago or maybe Seattle. She didn't even know anymore. In the kitchen, there was a note in his neat handwriting. Back Thursday. Board meeting Friday. Everett will brief you. No, miss you. No, love you. Just cold words, like business instructions. Juniper crumpled the note and threw it into the trash. That's where it belonged, with all her broken dreams. She was supposed to go to lunch with the other business wives that day. They would talk about clothes and vacations while pretending to be happy. But Juniper couldn't do it anymore. She stood in her giant closet full of fancy clothes that felt like costumes for someone else's play. No, she whispered. The word grew louder in her mind. No more pretending. No more smiling when I'm sad. No more being someone I'm not. She pulled out a pair of old jeans from the back of her closet. real clothes that felt like her. Then she took the subway to Brooklyn, to her old neighborhood. The building where she used to live looked smaller now, but it was full of life. Kids laughed in the hallways, music played through open windows, people talked and smiled. It was messy, but it was alive. She stood outside Zora's apartment door, shaking. Juniper? Zora gasped when she opened the door. She was wearing paint-splattered overalls and smelled like coffee. "What are you doing here? Don't you have some fancy lunch?" "I couldn't do it," Juniper said, her voice trembling. "I couldn't pretend my life isn't a lie anymore." Zora pulled her inside and hugged her tightly. It was the warmest hug Juniper had felt in a long time. "Talk to me," Zora said softly, guiding her to the old comfy couch. And Juniper did. She told her everything. She told her about the mornings when Caspian left without saying goodbye, the nights when he came home too late, the way he looked right through her like she was invisible, the way he never asked what she wanted. "I'm disappearing," Juniper whispered, tears running down her face. "I'm 42 and I'm disappearing a little more each day. I don't laugh. I don't dream. I don't even remember happiness." "Then leave," Zora said. Her voice was calm but strong. "It's not that easy," Juniper said. "The contract, the money, my mom's medical bills." "Your mom wouldn't want this," Zora said quickly. "She raised you to be strong. This life is killing you." "But where would I go?" Juniper cried. "What would I do? I haven't worked in a year." "You're the woman who wrote stories that made people cry," Zora said. "You're the woman who stood up for yourself when Lysander tried to control you. That strong woman is still there, Juniper. She's just been buried under all that fancy stuff." Juniper closed her eyes. Deep inside, she could feel that strong woman, small and scared, but ready to come out. "I'm scared," she said quietly. "Good," Zora smiled. "That means you're about to do something brave." That night, Juniper went home with a new feeling inside her, clarity. She looked around the shiny penthouse one last time. The chandeliers, the marble floors, the expensive art, none of it felt like home. She took out a suitcase, the same one she hadn't used since her honeymoon that never happened, and started to pack. Not the fancy things, just the things that mattered. Her grandma's jewelry, a few old books, some photos from her old life. As she packed, she thought about what she would say to Caspian. Maybe nothing. Maybe she would just leave, the same way he always left her. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from Caspian. "Flight delayed. Won't be back until Friday." Even now, he couldn't call, just a short, cold text. Juniper stared at it for a long moment, then deleted it. By Friday morning, she would be gone. Not to hurt him. He probably wouldn't even notice, but to save herself. She was 42 years old, and she was finally ready to live again. On Thursday evening, the air in the penthouse felt different. The place no longer scared her. It was just a beautiful cage she was about to walk out of forever. She had already found a small apartment in Queens. Nothing fancy, but it would be hers. The editor from her old magazine had even offered her some small writing work. It wouldn't be easy, but it would be real. She called her mother that night. "Sweetheart, you sound strange. What's wrong?" her mom asked. "I'm leaving Caspian, Mom," Juniper said softly. Silence. Then, her mother's worried voice. "Did he hurt you?" "Not the way you mean," Juniper said. "But yes, he hurt me every day. By making me feel invisible." Her mom sighed sadly. "I was so happy you were taken care of. I never asked if you were happy." "It's not your fault," Juniper said. "I chose this life, but now I'm choosing something else." "What about my medical bills?" her mom asked softly. "We'll figure it out," Juniper promised. "We always have." That night, Juniper stood in her bedroom for the last time. 2 suitcases by the door, her wedding ring on the dresser, and beside it, a letter she had written for Caspian. It said, "Caspian, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. Not because I want to hurt you, but because staying is killing me." Juniper had tried very hard for 14 months to be the best wife she could be. She smiled at Caspian's friends, went to his business parties, and never asked for much. just for him to notice her sometimes. But now she couldn't pretend anymore. She felt invisible, like a ghost in her own house. She knew he didn't love her, and she couldn't keep living like that. She wanted to love herself again. She wanted more than just a marriage on paper. She wanted to be seen, to be loved by someone who cared about her every day, not just when it helped his work. The money Caspian gave her helped her mother, but Juniper didn't want it anymore if it meant losing her happiness. She hoped one day Caspian would find what he was really looking for, but she needed to go find herself. Juniper thought about adding more to her letter, about how lonely she felt and how his coldness had slowly broken her heart, but she didn't. He never cared about her feelings when she was there, so why would he care now? The apartment was quiet that night. There was no sound from Caspian's office, no phone calls, no voice, no music. Nothing. Just silence. It was the silence of being truly alone. At midnight, Juniper called a taxi. Not one of Caspian's fancy drivers, just a normal car so no one would tell him she was leaving. As she waited for the car, she walked through the penthouse one last time. Every room looked perfect, shiny, and rich, but they didn't feel alive. They looked like pretty pictures, not a real home. She stopped by the big window where she used to stand every morning, watching the city. The lights sparkled below, and she thought about all the people out there, people who were probably sleeping next to someone who really loved them. I want that, she thought. I want someone who sees me, who really sees me. Someone who asks about my day because they care. Someone who holds my hand because they want to, not because they have to. Her phone buzzed. The car had arrived. Juniper picked up her suitcases and looked around the apartment one last time. Her hands were shaking, but not from fear. She was excited. For the first time in over a year, she was doing something for herself. The elevator ride down felt like leaving a tall tower where she had been trapped. With every floor, she felt lighter, freer. The doorman nodded politely as she passed. He had probably seen many rich wives leave in the night, but Juniper wasn't running to another man. She was running to her freedom. The taxi driver helped her put her bags in the trunk, and as the car drove away, Juniper didn't look back. She was 42 years old and finally free. Her new apartment in Queens was small and simple, but she loved it. It smelled like paint and hope. She unpacked slowly, choosing where to put everything: her grandmother's jewelry, her desk for writing, her bed where morning light would shine. When the sun rose over New York, Juniper sat at her little kitchen table with a cup of coffee. She smiled. For the first time in a long time, she felt something special: hope. She had lost all the things she thought she needed, but gained what really mattered: her freedom, her pride, and her true self. Tomorrow, Caspian would come home to an empty penthouse and find the letter. But by then, Juniper would already be building her new life, one brave step at a time. She was exactly where she was meant to be. That Friday afternoon, Caspian Vale came home from work. The penthouse was quiet, too quiet. He stood in the hallway, holding his briefcase, and felt something was wrong. "Juniper?" he called. His voice echoed, but there was no answer. That wasn't unusual. She often went to lunch with other wives from his business group. He didn't think much of it and went to his study. He had just finished a big deal in Chicago worth millions of dollars. It should have made him happy, but instead, he felt empty, like winning a game that didn't matter anymore. When he went to change his clothes, he saw it: the ring. Juniper's wedding ring sat on the dresser, sparkling in the light. Next to it was a folded letter with his name on it. Caspian stared at it, confused. Juniper never left notes, not even small ones. He picked it up and his hands shook. "Caspian, by the time you read this, I'll be gone." The words hit him like a heavy stone. Each line hurt. She wasn't out shopping or meeting friends. She was gone. "I can't live as a ghost in my own life anymore," she had written. Ghost. That word stopped him. Is that how she felt? Is that what he had done to her? He tried to remember their time together, her quiet smiles, her patience, how she always did everything perfectly for him. He realized something painful. She had always been trying, but he had never noticed. He had never asked about her dreams, her feelings, or even her day. He had never kissed her, never told her she was beautiful because he meant it. He had only given her money and things. She had given him everything else, her time, her love, her hope. And he had broken all of it. His phone buzzed. It was a message. Board meeting in 2 hours. Mrs. Vale's attendance required. Required. As if she were just another piece of his business. But she wasn't there anymore. And for the first time in years, Caspian felt the heavy pain of losing something real. He walked around the apartment, looking at everything with new eyes. It was beautiful, but empty. No warmth, no love. Just a place filled with things, not memories. He went into her room. The closet doors were open, her perfume still in the air. She had taken so little with her. The fancy clothes and jewelry he bought were still there. She had left behind everything money could buy, because she wanted something money couldn't give. Caspian sat down, the letter still in his hands. He called his assistant. "Cancel the meeting," he said quietly. "Sir, the acquisition. Cancel it." Then he hung up. For the first time in 5 years, business didn't matter. He had lost Juniper. Not the perfect wife who smiled for the cameras, but the real woman. The one who had wanted love, who had tried to reach him, who had finally saved herself. He looked around the empty penthouse filled with all his riches and realized he had lost the only thing that mattered. Tears filled his eyes. His heart, frozen for years, began to break open. He picked up his phone and called her. Straight to voicemail. "Juniper," he said softly, his voice trembling. "Please call me back. We need to talk." But deep down he knew she wouldn't call. She didn't belong in his cold world anymore. He had spent 14 months proving that her voice, her love, and her very existence didn't matter to him. Everett came quickly after Caspian called him, his voice full of fear. When Everett saw his boss, he knew something was very wrong. Caspian looked messy and broken. He was holding a letter tightly, Juniper's letter. "She left," Everett said softly. "Find her," Caspian ordered loudly. "I don't care how much it costs. Hire people to look for her. Check every hotel. Call everyone we know. Find my wife." Everett looked at him carefully and said, "Sir, maybe Mrs. Vale left for a reason. Maybe she needs some time." "No," Caspian said quickly. "She needs me to show her that I can change. She needs me to prove that I can be the husband she deserves." His hands were shaking as he walked back and forth. Everett was quiet for a while. Then he asked softly, "And what will you do when we find her?" Caspian froze. He didn't know. Would he just go to her, ask her to come home, and promise her more money? Would he write a new contract to make her happy? No. For the first time in 5 years, he realized that money didn't matter. His business and all his wealth felt empty now. "I'll apologize," he said at last. "I'll tell her the truth about why I built these walls around my heart. I'll ask her to give me one more chance. And if she says no—" He paused, his voice breaking. "Then I'll lose the only thing that really matters to me." Everett started the search right away. He sent people all over the city to look for Juniper, but no one could find her. It was like she had disappeared from the world. Hours turned into days. Caspian stopped sleeping. He didn't eat. He stopped caring about his company. He just wanted Juniper back. Everywhere he looked, he saw her. In the kitchen, in the living room, in their bedroom. Her memory was everywhere. Then, one Tuesday morning, Everett came into Caspian's office. Caspian had been staring at a paper for 3 hours without reading a single word. "I found something," Everett said. "Juniper has a friend named Zora Patterson. She might know where Mrs. Vale is." Within minutes, Caspian was in his car, driving fast through Brooklyn. Zora lived in a small, warm apartment, the complete opposite of his big, cold penthouse. When she opened the door, she frowned. Well, she said, "if it isn't the husband of the year." "I need to find Juniper. Caspian said quickly. Please. I know I don't deserve your help, but you're right, Zora interrupted sharply. You don't deserve it. You don't deserve her either. Caspian's shoulders dropped. I know I hurt her, but I love her. I need to tell her that. Love? Zora said angrily. You call what you did love? You made her feel worthless for 14 months. You turned her into a ghost. I know, Caspian said sadly, but it's true. I love her. I was just too afraid to show it. I thought if I didn't love anyone again, I couldn't be hurt again. But I was wrong. I've already lost her. Zora looked at him for a long time. Then she sighed. She's leaving town tonight, she said quietly. The 8:15 train to Philadelphia. She's going to stay with her cousin. Caspian's heart jumped. Thank you, he said, turning to run. Mr. Vale, Zora called after him. If you hurt her again, I will make sure you regret it forever. Caspian nodded. If I hurt her again, he said softly, I'll deserve it. At the train station, there were crowds everywhere. Caspian pushed through them, looking for her. His heart beat fast. What if he was too late? Then he saw her. Juniper stood by platform 7 with 2 small suitcases. She looked beautiful but sad. She wore simple clothes, the kind she used to wear before he changed her life. He stopped for a moment just to look at her face. Then she saw him. Their eyes met, and her face showed surprise, pain, and maybe, just maybe, a little hope. Juniper, he said when he reached her. Her name sounded like a prayer. Don't, she whispered. Please don't make this harder. I need to leave. I have to explain, he said quickly. There's nothing to explain, she said, her voice steady now. For 14 months, I tried to make you see me, but you never did. You treated me like something pretty to show off, not like a person. The speaker announced the 8:15 train to Philadelphia. Juniper picked up her bags, but Caspian gently stopped her. Please, he begged. Just give me 5 minutes. 5 minutes to say what I should have said every day for the past 14 months. Juniper wanted to walk away, but when she looked into his eyes, she saw something real. Pain, fear, love. She took a deep breath. You have until the train leaves, she said softly. Caspian looked down, gathering his courage. I was married before, he began. Her name was Alara. We were together 8 years, married for 5. She was my best friend. We had a daughter, Iris. She was 3. Juniper gasped. Caspian had never told her this. They died in a car crash 5 years ago, he continued, tears running down his face. A drunk driver hit their car. I lost them both. It destroyed me. I promised I'd never love again. The final boarding call sounded through the station, but Juniper couldn't move. When I married you, Caspian said, I thought I could protect myself. I thought I could have a wife without love. No pain, no risk. But I was wrong. I did feel something for you from the start. Every time you smiled, every time you talked about books, every time you looked at me with kindness, I felt it. I just pretended not to. Juniper's eyes filled with tears. Then why did you make me feel invisible? Because I was scared, he said. Scared to love you and lose you too, so I pushed you away. But you were never just a contract. You were my second chance at life. The conductor's voice called out again. Juniper looked at the train, then at him. It's too late, she whispered. You can't fix everything in one talk. You're right, Caspian said softly, but I can promise you a new beginning. No more walls, no more rules, just love. How do I know you won't go back to ignoring me? She asked. Because I can't live without you, he said, touching her face gently. My house feels empty without you. My heart feels empty. I finally understand that all my money means nothing if I can't share it with you. The train is leaving, she whispered, even as she leaned closer. Then let it leave, he whispered back. Don't get on that train. Don't leave me again. Juniper stared at him. I can't go back to the way things were. Neither can I, he said. Let's start over. No contracts, no pretending, just you and me. The train began to move, slowly leaving the station. Juniper watched it go. The chance to run away was gone. I love you, Caspian said suddenly, his voice trembling. I love your laugh. I love your kindness. I love how you never gave up on me. I love everything about you, and I'm sorry it took losing you to make me realize it. The noise of the station faded. Everything felt still. Then Juniper stepped forward and kissed him. It was the kiss they had never shared before, the one that broke every rule and every wall. It was full of love and forgiveness and new beginnings. When they finally pulled apart, both were crying. "Take me home," Juniper whispered. "Where's home?" Caspian asked softly. "Wherever you are," she said with a smile. "As long as you promise to see me, really see me, every day." "I promise," Caspian said, kissing her again. "I'll love you the way you deserve, forever." That kiss, once forbidden, became their new start, the moment they both learned that love was worth fighting for. The first time since they got married, Juniper and Caspian were truly happy together. They were not pretending anymore. They were really completely and perfectly together. 6 months later, Juniper woke up to the sound of laughter coming from the kitchen. It was real laughter, the kind that comes from true joy, not the kind people make when they are just being polite. She smiled and stretched in bed. It was their bed now, not just his room or her room, but a cozy space they made together with love. Juniper could hear Caspian in the kitchen trying to make breakfast. She laughed softly because he was never very good at it. The penthouse looked very different now. It used to look like a cold museum, all shiny and perfect. But now it looked warm and full of life. There were colorful pillows Juniper had picked, green plants that somehow stayed alive even though they didn't know how to take care of them, and pictures showing real happy moments. The most special photo sat on the mantel. It showed Juniper and Caspian at their second wedding, the one that truly mattered. They got married again 3 months after they met at the train station. This time, it was a small, happy wedding in Central Park with only close friends and Juniper's mother, Marlo Rhodes. Marlo cried through the whole wedding, not because she was sad, but because she was so happy to see her daughter marry a man who truly loved her. "Good morning, Mrs. Vale," Caspian said as Juniper walked into the kitchen. He hugged her from behind and kissed her neck. "How did you sleep?" he asked softly. "Like someone who knows she's loved," Juniper said, leaning back against him. She still couldn't believe how warm and gentle his touch felt now. Before, he had always kept a distance, but now his touch was full of love and care. "That's the best answer," Caspian said, smiling against her hair, "because you are loved, completely, totally, and even embarrassingly loved." Juniper turned around and saw his big, happy smile, a smile she had waited months to see. Caspian had changed so much. Little by little, his cold, hard shell had melted away. The serious, distant businessman had become someone funny, kind, and full of love. He was now the man she always knew he could be. "What's all this?" Juniper asked, pointing at the big breakfast on the counter. "It's not our anniversary or my birthday. What are you up to?" "Can't a man make pancakes just because it's Tuesday?" Caspian teased. But Juniper could see something in his eyes. He looked nervous. "Caspian Vale never does anything just because," she said, smiling. "You're up to something." He laughed loudly, his laugh deep and happy. "You know me too well," he said. "Fine, you caught me. I do have a surprise." He took an envelope from his pocket with her name on it. His handwriting looked different now, not stiff and perfect like before, but warm and natural, like the man he had become. "What's this?" Juniper asked, taking the envelope. "Read it," he said, his voice full of excitement. Juniper sat down on one of the colorful kitchen stools and opened the envelope carefully. Inside was one piece of paper. When she read what was written on it, her eyes went wide in surprise. It said, "Val Foundation for Children's Literacy, Executive Director, Juniper Rhodes. Vale, starting date. Whenever you're ready." "Caspian," she whispered, her eyes filling with happy tears. "What is this?" "Remember when we talked about the reading program for children?" he asked softly. "The one you dreamed of starting to help kids learn to read. And I didn't take it seriously?" She nodded slowly. "Well," he said, touching her shoulders gently, I've been thinking about it ever since. You were so happy when you talked about helping children. Your face glowed. So I created the foundation. No, we created it. It's yours, Juniper. You'll run it, make the rules, and have all the support you need. This is your dream, and I'll be by your side the whole way. Juniper started to cry, but these were happy tears. It was everything she ever wanted, a chance to help children and share her love of books with them. There's more, Caspian said softly, smiling. Remember the stories you used to write, the ones you thought no one would ever read? Well, I showed them to a publisher, Harper and Associates. They love your stories. They want to publish your book and even give you money for it. Juniper's mouth opened in surprise. How did you? Zora told me you were writing again, he said with a shy grin. So I read some of your stories, and I knew the world had to read them too. You're amazing, Juniper. Juniper ran to him and threw her arms around his neck. She kissed him again and again, laughing and crying at the same time. Her heart was bursting with love. I love you, she said softly. I love you so much it scares me. Good, Caspian said, spinning her around the sunny kitchen. Be scared, be brave, be everything you want, and I'll always be here cheering for you. That evening, they sat together on their couch, the one they chose after playfully arguing about colors. They read books with their feet tangled together. It was simple and peaceful, and it was perfect. Caspian, Juniper said quietly, looking up from her book. Hmm? He answered, still reading. Thank you, she said, for seeing me, for fighting for us, for becoming the man I always knew you could be. He put down his book and kissed the top of her head. And thank you, he whispered, for being brave enough to leave me before, for showing me that real love means honesty, not fear. You taught me that love is something to celebrate. Outside their window, New York City sparkled with a million lights. Each light was a story, people living, loving, and hoping. But inside their warm home, surrounded by laughter and books and soft lights, Juniper and Caspian had finally found something priceless. They had found each other. Not the perfect versions of themselves, but the real ones, kind, funny, brave, and full of love. For the first time since they had signed that contract over a year ago, they were truly, completely, perfectly happy. Juniper was 42, Caspian was 44, and their real love story was just beginning. And it was going to be magnificent. Now, let's think together. What would you do if you were Juniper? Would you leave a life full of money but without love to find real happiness? Or would you stay in a golden cage, waiting for love that never comes? Was Juniper brave or foolish to walk away from everything for love and respect? And do you think Caspian truly deserved a second chance? Tell us in the comments below. Thank you for listening to Juniper and Caspian's story. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts. See you next time for another beautiful story about love, courage, and hope.